Okay, so I've mounted some LED spotlights to the Africa Twin. They're 25 watt Stedi LED spotlights mounted to the SW Motec crash bars using the SW Motec mounts. So on each side, pretty simple, but because I'm not using the OEM setup, I've got to do my own wiring. But I want it to look and operate as if it was OEM. So I've got all this gear here to do it. So the number one thing you'll need is the OEM switch on that part number. So this is the OEM Africa Twin fog light switch, so it's just on off, pretty simple. I've got a fuse holder which will go really close to the battery, some fuses, some terminals which I'll need some more and bigger ones, so that's just for visual. A good relay, and I've got the loom that plugs in the bottom, so that makes it a lot neater, so I'll just solder onto the end of that. I've got the Deutsch plug connectors like they are, that will connect to the spotlight loom, which is just wrapped around the crash bar for now, so that'll plug in and go to the rest of the spotlight loom. And I've got the Eastern Beaver Y splitter kit, so this is like a beefier reproduction of the Honda one you can get, and it's also cheaper. So because I've got the 12 volt socket, I'm going to use this to split one wire setup. This one here will be for the power, for the socket, and I'll use this other one here to get the signal for the high beam and for the dash light, which I'll go through later on. I'm going to wrap the whole thing in braided wrap, just so it stops any pinching or rubbing through of the wiring. Some zip ties, some cable, probably to get a little bit bigger cable, but that should be fine. And this is the thing I'm going to add. So on the Honda Cross Tourer you can get a very similar switch to the OEM Africa Twin switch. I think it's the exact same switch, except it's got an extra add-on on the back that shines a light through the back here when this is turned on. So that part's discontinued, or you can only get it if you buy the whole kit, I believe. But anyway, it's pretty hard to get, and if you can get it, it's dear as poison. So I've made this little pilot LED. It's a little green LED, runs on 12 volt, and I've made out of like an old credit card looking thing, a little adapter. So this will go on the back using the same screw holes, exactly the same as how the Cross Tourer one works, except a bit thinner. And that will shine the green LED through the back, which if you have a look through here, you can still see that it's illuminated. So I've tested this already just on a battery, and works pretty good. You can see the outline of the fog light figure. So the way I'm going to wire that up is when the high beam is on, the green light will turn on in here, so then I can see where the button is on the dash to push. And then once I push that in, I'll also wire it up so that the factory dash light will come on to show that the spotlights are on. So a little bit of wiring involved, nothing too tricky. Should look really OEM, work really great. So now I'll go through the tools that I'll need. So these are the main tools you're going to need once the fairings are off. I'm not going to go through the process of getting the fairings off. There's already a heap of good videos on how to do that on YouTube. I'm just going to follow the process once you can access all the electrical connections and battery. So the main things you'll need, I'm going to use shrink wrap, electrical tape, a soldering iron with solder. Going to need a sharp knife to cut out the blank where the switch will go. And for the wiring jobs, some side cutters to cut wire, and I've got a wire stripper here as well. Also going to need a screwdriver because the switch mounts with two little screws on the back here. There's probably another few tools you'll need, but these are the main ones, nothing too special. I'm going to go with solder for all my joints instead of using crimp connectors where I can. So once it's all behind here, I really don't want a crimped connection falling apart or pulling apart or whatever, so I'm going to try and solder everything I possibly can. Okay, so this is a basic overview of how I'm going to wire it. The whole key to this thing is the relay in the middle. This thing, pretty simple device. So on this particular relay, and most relays there's 5 pins. So 85 is all numbered on the bottom there, you can't see it, but on the bottom 85 is ground, 30 is 12 volt from the battery, 86 is the positive you get from the switch, and 87 and 87A, if you've got a 5 pin, is the 12 volt outlet, so what you'll run to, whatever you're going to run off the relay, so that'll be my spotlights. So we have the battery, comes out to the fuse, pretty short run, and then into pin 30 for 12 volt in. 85 is the ground, so that'll just run to somewhere on the chassis or wherever I can find a decent ground. And 87 and 87A will run down to the positive on my connectors that go to my spotlight. So, and then the negatives will just go to a decent ground, so they're easy. Where it gets a bit complicated is the switching setup and the LED setup. So I'm going to use this Eastern Beaver adapter loom. So behind the dash on the Africa Twin there's one plug, this splits it into two, so this plug up here will just be the power outlet plug on its own. This one here will feed the signals I need for the dash light and the signal for high beam on. So there's a few different colours. Eastern Beaver uses a slightly different colour set than the wires on the OEM connector, so I've got them both here. So the Eastern Beaver for red is 12 volt, which is red and yellow for the OEM connector. Eastern Beaver is black for ground, and on the OEM it's green. Purple on the Eastern Beaver is for the dash indicator light on the factory Africa Twin dash. For the OEM it's blue with a black stripe. On the Eastern Beaver and the OEM it's both just a solid blue for the positive 12 volt high beam signal. So on the Africa Twin you'll turn your high beams on. That pin on the connector will have 12 volt, so that'll feed my LED, positive side of the LED, and feed this inlet side of the switch. The other side of that LED will just go to a ground, possibly the ground on the connector. So when the switch is closed, that will then put 12 volt out the other side. Some of it, well, part of it will go to the inlet side of the relay to close the relay and put power from the battery straight through to the spotlights. The other side will come and go to the purple pin on my Eastern Beaver adapter and put the light on the dash to show that my spotlights are on. So not that difficult, looks a bit wild on my whiteboard here. I'm not the best artist, but it's a basic overview. Okay, I've got the fairings off. It's not a fun job on this bike, especially when you've got radiator guards and crash bars in the way, but you get quicker every time you do it. So I've got this side piece off here. This is the back of where the switch goes through, so you've got to cut these little tabs here off so that the blank comes out. So there's the switch mounted, really easy, just cut the blank out with a Stanley knife. 2 screws which are supplied with the part in the back. And I've got my little LED piece in there as well, so now just to make the loom for the rest of it. Okay, I've got the wiring mostly done. Just connected up to the loom behind here, the 4-way connector. Got that side done, just got the power side to go. So over here that's power in, and those are the 2 power out, but I'm going to make sure that the dash lights work first. So turn the key on. I'm going to start the bike, a bit too loud. So we've got high beam off, high beam is on, switch lights up green, no dash light, turn the button on, fog light comes on the dash, and that stays green. So then I can just turn high beam straight off, and everything turns off. So that works beautifully that side. And then over here I'm just going to use a test light, so we'll turn the light on. And this is one of the outlet lights. Do this one-handed, and we've got power there, so turn that off, so the switch on the dash is off, and no power, so everything's working fine. I've just got to hook up the power side. Okay, so the end's in sight. Pretty time consuming when you want to do it properly, so I've got all the wiring done, just put the plugs, so they'll end up coming behind the fairings when they're back on, but just wanted to give it a test before I put the fairings back on to make sure everything's right. I've just got the crossbar zip tied in place for now, with the spotlights on, that side there tucks in behind. So, ignition on, headlights on, high beams on, dash light comes on the button and on the instrument cluster. Spotlights are on. Off, turn off, high beam switch off, back on, so everything's working fine. So I can now wrap everything up, put the fairings back on. While I was in here I also did my pre-filters and checked my main filters after that big ride I did. Pretty much any time you've got the side cover off, just check your air fillers. It's 4 screws. Saves a bit of heartache if you had to do it later on. So there shouldn't be much to put everything back on.